Good morning, everybody. Texas Homer here with the one and only Paul Wadlington. It is the Tuesday show where we normally break down and scout our future opponent, but it's a bye week. So we're going to use this for some self-reflection, look in the mirror, see where Texas has done a good job and see where Texas is going to need to improve for the remainder of the schedule. So on today's show, we will be talking Texas offense, Texas defense, opponent games of interest. Well, Paul will give you his opinions and which lines to stay away from. And then your questions, guys, you can always take us off course. We always appreciate that. We always want to interact with you guys. All right, Paul. First things first, good morning, Roaster. Horn 7. Good morning from Midland.
Yeah, and you guys don't be shy about interspersing your comments and questions this whole show. We'll get to all of them. This is a good opportunity just to make this. We've got some stuff we want to talk about, but we're going to also make you guys the focus. So bring your questions.
Absolutely. So let's talk Texas defense or Texas offense first. Let's do offense. The most exciting, fun part that everyone's in love with.
Is this going to turn into just poop on viewers fest?
Yeah, it almost seems to do that every time in the comments.
Okay.
But no, we're going to look holistically because that's going to be the biggest trick, right? If there's limitations viewers has, great. What are the solutions to that? How can offensive line improve? How can running back? How can we be holistically a better offense, not just at the quarterback position, but in totality? Okay, so numbers on offense. So everything is going the wrong direction, just straight up from a few weeks ago. We were really high in a lot of categories, like top 10. Now we're kind of backsliding a little bit, but we'll see. So points per game still high at 12th. A good amount of plays per game, pretty good pace for Sark too, right? Because traditionally he would be like high 60s, like 67 plays per game, and you'd be like 70th in the country in pace. So his pace has actually picked up. Have you noticed that at all? I honestly haven't appreciated that.
Nope.
Haven't noticed it either.
Maybe it's because opponents are throwing a lot and there's a lot of incompletions.
Yeah.
Just extending games naturally.
Yeah. Yards per play, still pretty good. Points per drive, still pretty good. Offensive success rate going down, but still top 30, which is important. We're losing explosiveness pretty much like by the game. So 53rd in the country, still above average, but not any. If you hear the national media one more time say the explosive Sarkisian offense, that's not what this is. And then havoc rate, that's been a big problem. We're going the total opposite directions there too, with just too many turnovers, man. It's kind of been the story of the season, that and penalties, right?
Well, havoc's also negative plays being inflicted on you too, right? Not just turnovers.
Yeah, it's everything. It could be, tipped pass that doesn't do anything. I mean, anything that's negative towards the offense.
Yeah, I think the tough thing is the interplay between explosiveness and havoc, right? So if you're giving up havoc, but you're making people pay, that's an acceptable trade-off. Or if you're not very explosive, you want your havoc rate not to be ranked 67th. You want to be ranked like 7th. and I kind of talked about this in my post-mortems, which are both up on Inside Texas. If you're not a member, go join. And I said basically like, hey, Quinn Ewers has a really low ADOT, last in the SEC of any quarterback, 285th in college football, last of any P4 quarterback. However, you can have a low ADOT if your running game is okay, you're not getting any penalties, and you're not turning it over. That's a successful way to cruise up and down the field in college football against most defenses. But we're not doing all the other preconditions that I cited.
Yeah, that's what we're lacking, the complementary part. And that's where it's just like if you're playing this sketchy, you need to be throwing bombs. The only time you can do the efficient ADOT stuff if your team is efficient, but we're not.
If you're a little machine, you can get away with a 5.5 ADOT.
Yeah, and that's very Big 12-ian, where you can just hit the slot, move up the field. But it's interesting. Do you like Sark's play calls for Quinn? Would you like to see more pulling offensive line on runs?
We actually ran an equal number of zone and gap schemes against Vandy. So I think they're better, generally speaking, pulling. But they had their best run game running zone schemes against OU. So I'm not sure. I think part of this, certainly some of it's the O line. I don't think they're creating a ton of line yards, right? Meaning sort of free yards just at the snap of the ball that the running back can get. But also, I don't think our running backs are doing a great job. It's frustrating for me to just turn on general college football on a Saturday and realize that Washington, has a better starting running back than we do. That you can turn on just random games and you'll realize that, wow, these guys have better, like more effective running backs than we do. And there are probably a couple of plays against Vandy where you saw the running backs not being decisive, actually creating a hold because the play got extended when they should have popped it inside and taken their 3 or 5 yards.
Well, and so much too, like if you watch each pass from Quinn, everything that has like a play action element or an RPO element is like predominantly outside zone. So like so much of the core offense, so much of the fake is built on the zone. We run a lot of counter, like Paul said. You'll see it whenever we're running, but almost everything is tagged with a fake run on top of it too, and it's this kind of outside zone. So it's like it's not so much of like, are we mad at lateral running? It's so schematically essential to what we're doing holistically that you can't like go away from it too much, or else it kind of screws up the play action game and the RPO game. It's hard to believe Texas couldn't line up straight up with Vandy and run the ball. We have big humans, but they are more finesse right now. Florida is one of the worst rushing defenses. Yeah, so if you watched the show with Eric yesterday, his point was, why are we recruiting 5-star 350-pounders and, running outside zone, which was generally created to have because you had smaller offensive linemen. You needed to find a way to run the ball without being able to run people over. So we do end up with this more finesse running philosophy when we do have the top school big boys to run vertically. That's interesting in year 4 to not be able to just line up and kind of maul guys. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I thought penalties played a big role in this as well. Texas really did have some successful runs that were either called back or they put you behind the chains. And then, no one wants to run the ball on 2nd and 20. So, although, sometimes we do anyway, but that's a good way to create 3rd and 15.
Yep. So rushing plays rate 91st in the country. So not running a lot. We used to be a healthier balance. We're starting to get out of whack. And that's basically because our running game has now become the screen game, essentially. Yards per rush, this keeps going down. Now we're 60th in the country. We'd be like 30th and then 40th and da-da-da. So that keeps going.
Pure sack yardage factored in as well, or is it? That's got to be.
I don't know. But I don't know how CFB is calculating. I mean, I think automatically if it comes from the ESPN side, that's going to be factored in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they kind of from the factory change that. But even with the sacks still exist, so it is still ultimately 4.5. But we are being sacked a lot. And then rushing success rate, I mean, we're getting positive fairly well, 26 in the country. But what's killing us, man, is we got no explosivity. Like what saved our run game in the past? We've never been a great like running team. But Bijan would house it, or Jonathan Brooks would go for 80, and we just don't have that to where we're not very efficient, but we still get our yards in chunks and can still hit 130 yards rushing because we have 2 big plays,
Yeah, Wisner's biggest run on the year is 43 yards. Blues is 23.
Yeah.
Blues averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Wisner 5.3. So we are factoring in sacks with Quinn. Yeah, that's we're not popping big runs. We're not when we catch people, we're not punishing them for it.
Yeah, and with Blue particularly, right? Because he's the speed guy. Like Wisner, I'm okay with being more traditional running back, but Blue, it's like I need you to hit shots, man. Like that's part of your sell and your advantage is your speed at the position.
Yeah, offensive line yards we talked about.
Drew, we'll talk about this when we get to the passing portion. Remind me though, Drew. All right, so yeah, so the biggest thing that's killing us in the rushing game is lack of explosivity. And then if we look at the offensive line's portion, they're 75th in offensive line yards. They're doing okay in rushing power success rate, short yardage kind of stuff, like top 50, which is decent. And then they're having a little bit of stuff rate issues in the backfield. So it's when the running game is not at full force, right, and you don't have a back that scares teams like Brooks or Bijan or whatever, they can play a little differently there. And, and it's kind of showing. And then you, of course, put a ton of pressure on your passing game, on your offensive line that's not doing a great job, on your quarterback that's not at max ability right now. So we're just not, like you said, it's not a complimentary style of football on the offensive side. And don't worry, guys, we'll have plenty of great things to say when we hit defense because that unit is killing it. But offense is just kind of struggling right now. Passing offense. These numbers still look really good, but they're going the wrong direction every game. So passing plays rate, 43rd. Passing attempts, 35th in the country, so overpassing. But like we said, whenever you're not super confident in your run, it kind of turns into a screen game. And even before that, Sark just loves screens in general. It's just a huge part of his offense and has been. Yards per pass, 17th in the country at 8.5. Passing success rate, 44th. That's going down. Passing explosivity also going down over the past few games, 32nd in the country. And then quarterback sacked percentage, 61st in the country. So getting sacked a lot, going the wrong way. But right now we're kind of mid-tier there. So what are you thinking passing offense-wise?
I mean, it's been the mainstay. It's been the main thing that's made it work. The problem with averages, right, is it's also a trailing indicator.
Right.
And so, it's like you're in a pool and you're walking in it. And the person says, when you just look at the averages, you're like, hey, it's getting deeper. It's getting deeper. Is this about to go over my head? I'm like, no. The average depth of this pool is 4.5 feet. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, yeah, well, it's 2 feet behind me and it's 8 feet up ahead.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem. The last 2 data points on this offense, frankly, 3, if you include OU, although we ran the ball successfully. The last 2 data points are not great. And you also have to look at it relatively versus the opponent. So Georgia, that was the best Georgia D that has been this year, partly because they got some guys healthy back. But they also schemed up some stuff. Vanderbilt is not a good defense. And they held us to 27 points.
Yep.
Some of that was self-ownership, turnovers, penalties, 6 offensive penalties, right? 2 turnovers, both interceptions. And we served up short fields multiple times, again, for our defense to defend. So we are playing uncomplimentary football. And,
so like Paul's saying, right, if we just look at the last 3 games that Texas has played and sort by them, now they don't auto-rank the number, which is annoying. But if you look, here's where Texas is. Here's the bottom of FBS. So Texas averaging the last 3 games, a.k.a. whenever we played competition, we're at 6.4 yards. So
per attempt.
Per attempt, right.
Yeah.
So bottom, we're in the hundreds right here, right? If that's all that's left.
Yeah. But we're ahead of Kentucky.
Yeah. And that's all we judge on is how we're doing versus Kentucky. But this is how many passing offenses have done better than Texas in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So when I mean things are going the wrong way, not a little bit. Things are going the wrong way. And the averages, frankly, look better than they should because we
had Army's passing attack.
Dude, that's crazy, though. Look at that. Last 3 games are averaging 17 yards per attempt. Fairly
efficient when they go bombs away.
Yeah. So, we're still seeing these green guys, but like Paul said, the weights are not equal on either side right now. And so, really, the yards per pass last 3 games is we're 100 in the country. So, sheesh. Let me look at some of these comments here, fellas. Since the Georgia game, everyone's blitzing the hell out of us. Am I wrong about that? No, you're not, Crunch. I've actually was just showing Paul on the game tape how many times they sent the nickel versus us, and they sent a couple of corner blitzes. The word's out on Texas, and it's basically speed up Quinn's time to throw. It's
so I would say that this about the blitz, it's the unexpected man. It's not necessarily a bunch of extra men, meaning people aren't bringing 7.
No, I don't think Vandy didn't bring 7 once. They brought 6 once.
Yeah, and what they're typically doing is bringing defensive backs, and then they're overloading one side, and they're typically, they paid for that a couple of times, but there are plenty of times where we didn't make them pay for that, and so we'll talk about that when we run a little film.
Yeah, it's overall, Vandy got beat a couple times on it. Still, they were net profitable by sending those blitzes.
It's worth the havoc.
And if they would have sent him earlier, because they really figured it out in the second half, if they would have sent it from play 1, potentially a different outcome. All right, standard downs rate. Now, this is the scary thing. This is like probably one of the most important metrics, period, is your standard down rate. So making sure you're not in second and third and long. We used to be a top team in the country, like top 10. We're now 76th. That's a scary metric. You don't want to see that. So we're becoming less efficient. We're not able, less command of the offense. We're not able to move the ball when we want to. We're not able to stay in advantageous situations. That's how offenses stall, is lack of standard downs.
Yeah, the EPA numbers, the early downs EPA, that's big. Yep. And then down at the bottom, the interceptions thrown per game, fumbles per game. We still are okay in turnover margin because our defense keeps turning people over like crazy. Yep. We have 14 interceptions, or wait, I think we have 12 interceptions through 8 games, which is very good. I think we had 16 and 14 games last year. So, and I think, 4 of them were one team. So, yeah, we're turning it over way too much on offense. So if we were just kind of quietly sucking and then punting the ball and giving our defense 75 yards to defend, we'd be having a different conversation and we'd be looking at different scores, frankly. Mm-hmm. But we're actually, stabbing our defense in the back the last couple of games way too often.
Yeah, one of Quinn's strengths in the past was he doesn't throw interceptions. So it's like you might get a little frustrated with the lack of, like explosive playmaking, but at least he's not turning the ball over. That's also gone to the wayside. And that's what's frustrating offensively as a whole. You have all these 4th year, 3rd year starters on offensive line, mature guys. You bring in wide receivers that are mature transfers. You got a 3rd year quarterback, and you got Gunnar Helm, who's been in the program, and we're seeing this lack of discipline. It makes we have none of the advantage of experience right now. If this doesn't look like a mature team on the offensive side of the ball. Why do you suppose there's such a big disconnect now in the O-line with communication? Did Georgia get in their heads? I don't think Georgia got in their heads. I think Georgia exposed that we don't have good communication, and the other teams didn't really expose that as well.
Yeah, and I would correct that. Pass protection.
Right.
People think the O-line are the only people who are doing pass protection. There's other personnel involved. There's scheme involved. What are we calling? What are the protections? And then there's the quarterback understanding the protection he's in and knowing where to look because they should know what the exploit is against that protection. So I would widen that out, Vader. So it's not just a big disconnect in the O-line with communication. I'd say there's a big disconnect in pass protection and the offense in total with communication.
Yeah, because the running backs have to be on board, the tight ends, and the quarterback.
To run the right route.
Yeah, correct. You're right.
Your 7 head fakes, and I'm going to fake this way and fake here. Like every stupid recruit thing where they're running like in shorts against each other.
Yeah.
And there's a cornerback by himself. There's no other defenders.
Yeah.
And the wide receiver runs 19 fakes and then gets open. And everyone's like, oh, and they lose their mind after 5 seconds of route.
Yeah. It would never work in a game.
Yeah. And so, your wide receivers need to understand when there's a blitz, who is blitzing, and what route option they need to change to give the quarterback an immediate option.
And you'd see some of the
recognize that too.
When you saw the running backs give up a sack, tight ends sometimes not great blockers, like you said. The wide receivers are not sitting down fast enough. Sometimes Quinn's not even aware of like that he is even hot or where he should be looking when he's hot. So it's a large amount of dysfunction, like Paul's saying. It's not just like what's going on with the offensive line. There's a global issue here that's concerning in that regard.
Well, the funny thing is, if a lot of that's going on, if you have a really good running game, and because we're not being outnumbered in the box. If you have a really good running game, you just go, okay, they're stunting. They've got 2 safeties back at least. But we're going to line up and run the ball, and they're going to stunt. They're going to be stunting out of gaps, and we're going to punish them for that. And we're going to get them to stop all that foolishness.
Yep.
And we're not able to do it. We're not able to line up and bully people.
Yeah. All right, y'all, before we chat a little bit more, we'll look at some tape as well. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512, or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
What's up? All right. So that's issue. The thing that sucks the most too. Our red zone has gone. Remember, we used to be one of the best teams in the nation in the red zone, like top 5. 67th now. Like it's not going well, guys. So that's where it's a little bit frustrating. It's heading the complete opposite direction. Some of these numbers are reverting kind of to offensively last year. So we definitely had an earlier easy schedule effect. That's the reality of it. All right. You want to look at some tape, Paul?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Although I do think we have a quick question that we should address about where the protection calls are coming from.
Can you give me the name?
Vader RT, JW Crunch. They're talking about that in the chat.
Recent?
Yes.
Okay.
There's not a lot in there. So the question is, are those protection calls from the quarterback and center? It depends on the situation. So they make the adjustments. The protection calls coming from the play. They're signaling in the protection. They don't. Jake Majors or Quinn Ewers doesn't conjure the protection out of thin air, right? They're being told what to do, and then Majors can make a check. Typically, it's going to be him. Quarterback can do that as well. Quarterback is more likely to change like the direction of a run or the type of run, depending on the front. We might audible from run to pass, right? And then but the actual protections, if it does need a modification, Majors will typically do that at the line of scrimmage. But they're not calling the protections, if that makes sense. Like they're not calling the initial protection. So Majors isn't deciding initially whether it's a slide protection. That's in the play call.
Yeah. Now in the pros, they all have command of that. That's the difference. But Quinn, have you seen Quinn do any signaling at the line for protections? I don't.
I don't know.
I don't. I try to look for it, and I rarely see him pointing. So I think he's just kind of the beneficiary of it, but I don't think he has any command of it.
Yeah, I've seen him like change a play, but not super often.
Yeah.
Sam Ellinger is the guy I used to watch. Like,
well, I want to see, right, is he pointing at linebacker? Is he telling Blue, like, if the nickel or you got to choose?
Oh, yeah, that's our center.
Know?
Majors is identifying the mic
yep.
and all that stuff.
Yeah. I just want to see a quarterback come up and change it. You saw Beck, right? So, like, Beck, like the center would call something and Beck would come up and say, we're in this. And Beck would point out.
Yeah.
Quinn doesn't do that. We don't have that level of command at quarterback right now.
All right, let's watch some tape.
Let's do it. All right. So what we're just going to look at is some basic blitzing, and this is a big theme in the game. They send a lot of pressure from the nickel. So you guys can see here, number 2 will move slowly throughout it, but they are firing him a bunch. And so he's telling Quinn, you got to make a decision, right? Quinn gets it out there on the rail route. Good choice, but he doesn't make it easy. Right. And this is foreshadowing because if you remember, you're going to see in the third or fourth quarter, the same thing is going to happen. He's going to swat this ball up and they're going to intercept Quinn. And you're going to hear everyone say that interception is not Quinn's fault. It's not in that he threw the ball and it got tipped. It's Sark's fault for knowing that the nickel gets fired exactly like this, probably 10 more times in the game. And we're still trying to throw into him. So 1 out of 10 times, the havoc play works. But this number 2 right here, jumping up and trying to swat it, that's just foreshadowing. So the interceptions that we did have besides the glance actually had more meaning once you understood the global context of it. So that was a 3rd and 2. They bring the nickel early in the game. 2nd and 10, passing down. Where's 2? 2's up top. You also notice this, Sark has a lot of tight splits. Wide receivers coming in, they'll do this thing where they'll keep the corner out here and kind of like cover 3, and they'll like to fire number 2 or they'll fire on the opposite side, but they're like trying to punish Sark basically for these condensed sets.
Yeah, so this ends up being a 5-man rush, right?
Yep.
We pick it up pretty easily. And then immediate throw. Now, you'd like to, that's a fine play. We blocked it up here.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to have something going on downfield to punish this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do manage that a couple of times in this game, but not real often. You'd also like to see maybe some stuff in the intermediate range that either digs or maybe even crossers, right? If they're in man. That we're going to the immediate release, and as with Georgia, there's a guy right there. Like they clean that up pretty quickly because they know when they make that blitz what the outlet is. The difference is Georgia had much higher level athletes, so we weren't breaking tackles and getting extra yards against Georgia, but we did do that some against Vandy.
Yeah, my browser kind of froze up. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right. I can't see you for whatever reason.
It's okay.
It might kick me out. It might kick me out for a second, but until then, we'll keep going. I'll hop right back in if it does kick me out.
All good.
All right. So here we have similar thing, condensed set. Now, what I like here is like Sark starts doing this motion where, the nickel's right here. Sark will start taking the number 2 receiver out, trying to widen number 2, so the nickel will end up on the new number 2 like this, and number 1 has to defend the outside now. So that's kind of an answer that Sark begins to utilize to make that nickel stay home.
Well, and the other thing to know about this nickel is, so just basic in a nutshell, teams either go big nickel or small nickel. And what I mean by that is literally like the size of the nickel. Vanderbilt goes big nickel. Their guy Fontenot's 6'2", 220. He's basically linebacker size. And the reason they do that is because they use him as an edge defender against the run. And they also use him more often than not as a blitzer rather than a coverage guy. We are more small nickel philosophy, right? We're more concerned using our nickel as a pass defender, right?
Corner, yeah.
As a corner. So Sark historically has exploited big nickel stuff. because through motion and through alignment, he gets them into coverages. And so this was a battle throughout the game. Now, one of the reasons DeAndre Moore had 6 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns is because he was on the big nickel. And so when we exploited him, it went well. But when we didn't, it didn't go well. And Homer will show you that as well.
So this is the A-gap blitz that they enjoy.
Yeah, go back real quick. So A-gaps, of course, either side of the center. They've got a guy heads up who's walked up, and then let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
So they're going to
they stunt to the A gap. They bring the linebacker. That is safety. Yeah, that's linebacker. So they stunt to the A gap. And then luckily Wisner, this is an example of a back doing a good job in protection. I wanted to show some examples.
In that game, Wisner was the best in pass pro.
Yep. So this is what it looks like when you do it right, So it's not like we got it wrong every time. We just get it wrong enough times to where it's an issue.
And in my opinion, this was Quinn's either best or second best throw.
Yeah. But this is the thing too. Everyone gets mad that if you look at the bottom of the screen, Matthew Golden's wide open. Okay. Why is he? Because they sent a corner blitz.
Yes.
So this is corner blitz to the boundary. This is exactly what Georgia did, right? And you're going to see them do it on the very next passing down as well. They're going to send the same corner. And the headset guys up top, they notice it, and then they dial up a play for it. But they send a corner blitz here. They're like, well, Matthew Golden's wide open. First off, Quinn's not scanning the field guys in 3rd and 7 quick game. And that's also just not what he does. He has a safety blanket here. His name's Gunnar Helm, and he's bigger than this guy. Quinn doesn't even think about the other players here. So, but also flip side, right? Quinn has no interest in the corner blitz. Quinn has no awareness of this blitz. And that's what other teams are seeing on the tape too. Because guess what? They cover Helm right here. We can get into a lot more trouble. But Helm's, luckily, he threads the needle. It's a beautiful pass when you look at it from behind.
Yeah,
it's an awesome pass.
Also, this layered route, I don't really like what we did running a guy immediately behind him.
It's too close.
Yeah, it's too close. And people, I mean, I'm on. I have friends who are like, Quinn's such an idiot. DeAndre Moore's open there behind Helm. That's DeAndre Moore.
Right.
And it's like, if he would have thrown that, Helm would have reached for the ball and probably tipped it, because it doesn't happen like that. And also, it's like, well, Golden's wide open, throw it to him. He doesn't see him. Like, he's not. Right. There's a blitz. It's 3rd and 7. He's trying to get rid of the ball. Like, if you watch football, there are receivers open on different parts of the field. The quarterback can't see it all. He's not in the stands.
This is not drop back passing where everyone's 20 yards downfield and everything's in his vision.
Yeah,
it's 3rd and 7. They heat him up every chance they get. Quinn knows he has no time. Every defense's thing is to shorten Quinn's time.
Yes.
So, but you also see later on, he looks for Helm in this situation and they cover Helm.
Yeah.
And it leads to a sack.
So this guy, this Vanderbilt defender who checked Helm at the line of scrimmage, he sort of checked him and then quit. Like, he would have been better off just covering him.
Yep.
And he's a smaller defender. So that's a downside, again, blitzing your nickel or a linebacker who is more size appropriate for Gunnar and might have checked him at the line of scrimmage. That guy can't impede him. So he would probably just been better turning and running with him.
Yeah.
But, oh, well.
But the main takeaway here, guys, is they're sending a corner, right? We're obsessed with how much Quinn is getting blitzed.
Yep.
Secrets out there for some reason. All right, next play. This is going to be the touchdown. So remember, I just talked about the corner blitz here. Well, guess what? Corner blitz again. But this time, AJ Milwee and Sark, they got something for him.
Yep.
Okay, so boundary, they fire that corner again, post wheel. DeAndre Moore gets it, and that's how you beat the blitz, and that's how you make them pay.
That's it.
We don't do that enough, but that's one example where Quinn does see it. Either Quinn sees it or the coordinator sees it because he immediately looks to that side of the field. And if you look, too, they got, I think, Golden down here at the bottom completely ISO'd. So Quinn could theoretically look either way here. But he knows to go post wheel.
So that top receiver, run it, Connor. The top one, Moore's not out there yet. He is literally just trying to be a distraction because we want to hit more.
Yep.
Like that's the concept, because they know from watching, obviously, that Vandy keeps bringing corners and nickels. And so what's the easiest way to punish it? We're going to have a little cross action up there, the post wheel, very common. And then, it's perfect. Easy.
Also, dude, this player's got hops. The corner that they sent.
Yeah.
when he jumps to block that ball, dude, he gets up.
Yeah, he does.
But once again, this is another example of Quinn trying to throw through a guy, and it works, right? But this is the second time now we've seen them jump up and try to tip these passes, right? But this is how you make the blitz pay. Okay, 3rd and 3 later in the game, right before half. Now, what do we have? We have tight wide receivers.
Yep.
So pay attention to that. That's like an auto key for this nickel.
Shorter distance to travel.
Yep. So he's going to fire, and he's going to break down, and Quinn, we're going to see the other view here. But see, this is an example of when this nickel finally starts getting home. And this is why they're investing play after play after play with these nickels and corners. There's nowhere to really go with the ball here. Quinn doesn't have the athleticism. Like, you see somebody else, they would just do the backspin on this. They'd be able to plant foot and then turn around on this nickel. Quinn's not able to do that. Sack.
But is there? So I think run it back. You'll see one guy.
It's going to be a better view here, I think, for you real quick.
Okay, perfect.
Does that help you better?
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome.
Come on.
All right, watch home. Okay, 5. Stop. So we do have options. If you throw the ball right here in the middle of the field, that's a completion and a first down. He's allowing one defender squatted in between our two receivers. Now, our receiver does stop. He should have, actually, he didn't do anything wrong. Quinn needs to throw the ball immediately. Right here. So right before that.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. Like, let him get the snap and look.
And then you'll see. Oh. Yeah. So they invested in that number 2 nickel blitz, and now we're starting to see returns. And you're going to see them start getting real selfish with it here in a second. This is kind of like a turning point where they're like, we don't even care, just send them.
Yeah, he's got to throw it to Golden, to the non-defender shoulder immediately on that play.
Yeah. And I think he's scared because he's kind of moving left, and even with a good arm, the ball kind of tends to drift. So I think he's scared he's going to drift it into that linebacker no matter what. But also the distance is so short, you can kind of compensate by just as hard as you kind of can without getting it to drift with your body.
Yeah.
All right. So surprising, guys. Guess who's going to blitz here? Y'all guess.
The nickel.
Here's the nickel. Okay. Now this is a new change, right? You guys see Hayden Connor at left guard right here. They've stopped trying to get tight ends and right tackles or whoever to handle this guy. They started pulling Hayden Connor right here to stop it. And it's more effective than the running back and that kind of stuff. Because you see, Helms still gets beat.
Helms just not a good pass blocker, and he's never been.
He's too tall. He's too tall and long.
He's just, he doesn't move his feet.
But Helm gets beat. But luckily, this is a wrinkle. This is Sark and them trying to answer that nickel stuff. And it's not a coincidence that they start doing this after half. So they talked about it. So this actually gives some benefit there. Hayden Connor starts getting pulled. All right. This is an interception, I believe. Let's see. Or what is this? No, this is the sack. All right, guys. Guess who gets sent? The nickel.
Is it the nickel?
Guess what, guys? Like when I told you, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much.
Now, here's the crazy thing about this one. This is stop. This is telegraphed. And he's out at the other hash, right? Mm-hmm. Quinn is standing on one hash. Look where that nickel is standing. He's on the other hash. Like, that's a lot to cover that distance, and he's telegraphing it. I mean, we know what's happening here because you have the cover safety, and then you have the other corner with some space squatting, right?
Yeah.
And that's against Twins. Let's run it and see what happens. As a quarterback, you should know he's coming. Now
He's looking right at him. So he knows. And look, so he's trying to get, this is an RPO, guys. So he's trying to get number 5, Wingo, down here, leading the stack, to come sit down. Well, this safety plays it perfect. He sits down right in this window where the RPO is supposed to be. And so there's nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, Wingo actually needs, once he sees that, stop. No, go back.
Yeah, he should stop right here.
No, like even before that, keep going back. All the way. Stop. He sees that his guy blitzed. The guy off of him is 10 yards away.
Yep.
Turn towards the quarterback right now. Stop. Catch the ball and run up the field. And if you break a tackle, it's a touchdown. And if you don't break a tackle, it's 9 yards.
Was it Wingo too that got cat blitzed or got corner blitzed in Georgia? It was Wingo, right?
Yeah, and so they're exploiting a freshman receiver who doesn't know the rules here.
And
right?
to somehow communicate, scream as loud as you can. You know.
Well, but look, when you see your guy vacate, stop, turn, and literally present yourself to the quarterback. Quinn will throw it to him, and then you're one-on-one with a guy in space, and you're the bigger, stronger guy. You're either going to get 9 yards, you're going to shake the guy for a touchdown.
Yep.
So that's a schematic thing, and that's a receiver not doing his job. And we have people complaining about the O-line here because there's a pressure. The O-line has nothing to do with this.
Yeah. So safety just plays that well. Number 2, well-timed blitz. Quinn just has to eat it. I'm not really mad at Quinn here on this.
No, he didn't do anything
But
wrong.
it's another example of why this firing the nickel strategy is golden. All right. I don't have the rest of these marked, so I just need to see if they fire when they do. This is just really good, him stepping up, but this is almost an interception here. This is not a nickel blitz example, but it's a play that I've noted. Quinn steps up. That's what you need to do when your tackles are.
Stop right there. Against Georgia, he wouldn't move a foot and a half forward to make those offensive tackles basically have perfect blocks right there.
Yep.
That's perfect pass protection.
Yep.
But he made the pass protection happen because both of these guys shot like bats out of hell. And the offensive linemen, the offensive tackles are both allowing them to climb and then still keeping control of them. If Quinn stands there like a statue, it's a batted ball or a pressure or a hit on the quarterback. He takes a little jump forward and suddenly it's a perfectly blocked protection. So that's how the quarterback, through just slight movement, can make his blocking better.
And here's how you can do it and then ruin what you've just done. Throw the ball, Quinn.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, and so it's like, dude, you have good base right here. You can throw it. Wide enough base, but for some reason he wants to run forward, do a half throw, get himself in trouble, and guess what? He's about to get himself hit too for no reason.
And he has 2 receivers open. If you go back, there's a guy down right directly in front of his face, and then there's a guy down at the bottom, right? Golden did what he's supposed to do. He wasn't covered. There's a huge gap. He took 2 steps off the line of scrimmage and turned around and presented himself to the quarterback in green space. So Quinn's got 2 options here, and I don't know why he's hesitating. Maybe he's waiting for this late post to come open.
He wants helm, but they have to helm literally in a triangle of coverage.
Yes. Just throw the ball.
Check it down.
Why are you doing that?
Exactly. And then he gets hit. By doing that, he gets himself hit too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's just like right there, it just showed you that like he had the man right there, stepped up, looked beautiful, right? Like textbook, bam, make your play. But starts doing that and then gets himself hit and almost gets it intercepted again with a tip right here, but it doesn't happen, right? So tricky. Okay, let's look here. See what this is. Okay, so this is the interception. Now, guys, guess who they're going to send?
I predict the nickel.
You predict the nickel. Okay, now this is the second interception where everyone says this is not Quinn's fault. This is not the offense's fault. In fact, it is the offense's fault because I've just given you, 10 examples of this nickel doing this. Okay, so what they're trying to do here is if you look at the offensive line, they have Helm and the Gravedigger. The reason they're doing that is because they can send Helm across the line to block this unblocked DN on outside zone. Okay, so they're going to outside zone left. They're going to send Helm up the field. He's going to block this end. What Ewers and Sark likes to do is they like to fake the outside zone handoff down here to the left, and then Quinn can roll out and then hit some of his plays. So they're going to fake Gunnar Helm like he's normally going to block the end like you would on outside zone, but they're going to keep Helm going, and it's going to be a tight end leak, and that's what they're trying to do. Well, one of the advantages is with the outside zone scheme is to be able to get these rollouts. They're not letting Quinn ever get these rollouts.
So and this play is a single read.
Yep. And if it's not there, it's not there. So, but once again, Sark does this to himself by keeping the wide receiver so condensed. We've learned that if you condense the split, they're going to pretty much auto send the nickel. Okay, right here, right? Now, guess what?
No, first of all, so go back slightly. The minute Quinn sees Gunnar Helm even to this guy, his thinking should be set my feet immediately, and the minute Gunnar Helm goes slightly past him, throw the ball. Because I still have space between me and this defender. The minute that defender closes ground, you're at risk of having the ball batted down. Let it run.
Here we go.
Boom.
Oh, there we go. The nickel once again. How many times have we seen the nickels and corners jump in Quinn's face like this?
You got to throw it half a beat earlier. Now, is it set up schematically wrong? Yes, absolutely, Connor. But that should be a completion. And if Gunnar Helm breaks a tackle there, it's going to go for a nice gain.
Yep. Yeah, and I wouldn't have a problem with it schematically if they weren't sending this nickel from the condensed split 10 times prior to this.
And yeah, I mean, how does this play look different if Golden is lined up near the sideline?
Right.
Now you have a bunch of space to work with, and if they bring the nickel, it's an immediate recognition.
Well, and also look how the front is, right? They're making sure that we're going to struggle to pick all of this up, but it's so they have 5 on the line. They're trying to do big on big. They have Helm here, but there's clearly no communication. They're all outside zoning. No one picks up 29, which would be Helm if he wasn't faking the leak, but there's no one to pick up 2.
Yep.
I know Sark's whole point is we got to throw this fast so we can leave 2 unblocked, but apparently you can't leave 2 unblocked because that happens, and we've seen it all game. And then 29's able to stand there. I guess that's Capers, right? And then Capers gets the interception. So
yep. Also, when you throw that and you see it batted up in the air as the quarterback, you have to go run to the ball and push the guy.
Yep.
You can't stand and watch it be tipped up and intercepted.
Yep. Okay, so that's thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk on them blitzing the nickel 900 times. But I was doing that to show you guys that I've heard a lot of people on that second interception be like, what can you do? What can you do? And I'm like, well, if you watched the whole game, you would know that this was a very predictable thing that was going to happen. And Quinn, A, has to get the throw out quicker, or B, let's not even schematically be in that situation to try to roll out against a scheme that's entirely designed to keep you from rolling out off of outside zone. So it's a little tricky. Paul, will you tell the viewers about our good friend, Gabe Winslow?
Yeah. Sometimes the errors here are scheme. Sometimes the errors here are the player. There's no errors in Gabe Winslow's mortgage game. This is a guy you need to give a call, 832-557-1095. Whether you're purchasing a home or whether you're doing a refi, this is the guy to call. Over 20 years in the industry. He's been in every aspect and facet of the industry. He's owned a title company. He's been on the mortgage side for 2 decades. Longhorn grad, proud alum, huge supporter of all things Longhorn, including this fine show. And he's just great at what he does. There's an endless number of testimonials that we have from viewers of this show, of my podcast, the Everyone Gets a Trophy podcast. And just go on Google and read his reviews. These are not the fake Google reviews where it's like good written.
Very good. 5 stars. Very great.
3 paragraphs about all the things Gabe did to make their dream home come true. Give him a call, 832-557-1095. And I promise you, your experience will be better than what you've experienced watching some of this frustrating film.
Yep. All right, fans. So that's what we were just trying to show you. So it's like, you can get mad at Quinn on this. If you're just getting mad at Quinn, you're wrong. You should be mad at entirely. We saw offensive line issues picking up the corner. We saw wide receivers not helping Quinn when they're blitzing that nickel straight at him. Ryan Wingo not side adjusting that kind of glance RPO. We saw tight ends getting beat. We saw Sark calling plays that are not beneficial to run against that nickel blitz. I mean, Quinn is the figurehead, so Quinn touches the ball every time. So he's always going to be in relation to the problem because he's literally touching the ball. But we saw across the board, each unit struggled there and helping each other achieve what we needed to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think you did a great job. You picked the right clips. And I think you're really onto something with this exploitation of the bunch. The nickel just has less ground to cover. And the further that nickel is out, is further away from the line of scrimmage and further away, I should say, from the quarterback, actually, just draw a line, right? The more time and space you get to make the right call. But it's not just Quinn, man. We saw the scheme. We saw a couple of times the wide receiver should settle. But Quinn's got to get rid of that thing really quickly in certain instances. And then in other instances, where he's got a nice, clean pocket, hang out for a second and see what happens. Let's let some of those routes work and attack the coverage. But the indecision is really frustrating when he sees blitz. And that's a tough part of this is you just got to throw it, man. And you got to throw it on time. So.
And you see it's kind of a feeding frenzy. And it's like this feedback loop that's not good, right? So Quinn can show that he's a little nervous versus the blitz. Well, then they start sending the blitz more and more. And then now when they're not sending the blitz, and they'll do this, I didn't show you guys, but they'll have number 2. He'll start stepping at the line, dropping back, stepping at the line, dropping back. So they're trying to constantly just kind of freak Quinn out. And whenever he's not freaked out, Helm gets beat. Cam gets beat on the inside move. It's like there's just this team's not helping each other. There's ways to help Quinn and settle him down. And whenever he does try to settle down, then a sack does occur or something. So it's just it's frustrating to watch in totality. These guys need to they just need to do their jobs, Paul. They need to execute.
Do your job. Yeah. I think all this means the bye week couldn't have come at a better time.
Yep.
Because I think they need to do a little self-scouting, a little self-reflection on some of this. They've got to look at the man in the mirror, Connor.
They sure do. All right. We'll talk defense very quickly here.
A cursory view of our defense.
Yeah, really. And luckily with the defense.
Maybe we'll revisit the defense for our deep dive.
Yeah, that's possible. And because the defense, luckily, we don't have a lot of commiserating to engage in. Opponents points per game, they're number 1 in the nation. Opponent seconds per play, we don't care about. It's red, but that doesn't matter. This is not a good or bad diagnostic necessarily. It's just it is what it is. So what you need to pay attention to is opponent yards per play, first in the nation. Total yards, first in the nation. D points per drive, second. And that's with multiple times our offense turning it over in our own territory. The defense is still limiting to number 2.
Yeah, by the way, that started against OU to no effect because OU's offense is that impotent.
Yeah.
But then you saw it. That really hurt us against Georgia badly.
Yeah.
Because, frankly, the defense was great against Georgia. And then hurt us again against Vandy.
Oh, wait, a point I need to make that's interesting. We heard Sark got a little frustrated in the presser, and he was like, we'll throw it deep if they quit sitting back. I get what Sark's saying. This is not a 2 safety. They have 2 high shell. They're rotating into cover 3, guys. So Sark, that's not what Sark's saying is not 100% true, guys. They're not sitting 4 safety, 2 corners, 2 safeties back and stopping us from throwing. They're rotating into cover 3. Most importantly, guys, every time it's in is how many, there was no pressure sent. If there was pressure, I say how much, 5, 6, 7 guys, right? Look how many times they send pressure. This is how many times there's not enough guys. They're being forced into man or close to man, or they have to vacate a zone. There's tons of opportunities here, guys. Tons. Where they don't have full things. So Sark's saying if they just quit sitting back, that's a cop-out.
Well, so that's a clue, though, because it's telling you a lot of what we do is based on pre-snap recognition. And then when they shift out of it, we're not making the best side adjustments. I mean, and our typical adjustment is check it down.
Yeah.
And hey, that's effective when you hit 17 in a row and the running game's working. You're not getting penalties. You're not turning it over. But we're not attacking the middle of the field. We're not attacking the intermediate part of the field. And that has been a big deficiency all year. And in fact, if you have safeties deep, or even if you change into cover 3, there are intermediate routes open. You're allowed to throw it in front of those safeties if they're
Right.
hanging way back.
Right. Even if they did sit way back, even say there was 4, which there never was. Say there was 4 sitting back there. Great. That means the middle of the field is open. So I've heard fans say it, and they're just blindly, guys. If you can be a fan and not a gang member, this is not a gang mentality. You can use your logic. You don't have to just blindly defend people just because they have Texas on. And don't just repeat things like they're keeping everybody back. That's just simply not true. If you look at my coverages here, there's a lot of man, but it turns into like basically all cover 3. And a lot of the man stuff is red zone.
And how you're aligned pre-snap is not determinative of what you have to do post-snap. And, a good example of this, and people always talk about, well, they lined up in this, so we had to throw this. It's like, well, there's your alignment and there's your disposition. And what I mean by that is you could be in cover 2, but if at the snap of the ball, both of your safeties are sprinting downhill to fill run gaps, you're not in cover 2.
Right.
Okay. So there's your alignment and then there's your disposition. What are you actually doing? And that was something, God bless him, Greg Davis and Mac Brown struggled with against OU in the 2000s. They would line up in cover 2. The corners would actually back off on some plays, right, and play off coverage. And then both safeties would barrel downhill. And we'd be like, well, we're going to run the ball when they're in cover 2. And then we couldn't understand why it was 2nd and 11. Yeah. It's like, well, their alignment doesn't dictate what they have to do once the ball is snapped.
And that's the big problem with they've kind of, remember quarterbacks were always taught middle field open, middle field close. And that's becoming obsolete because everyone's running too high shell. Everyone's showing middle field open now. And almost everyone's rotating to middle field close. And yeah, exactly. But it's like, dude, this is not that complicated. If you know that they're showing you 2 and this defense lies a lot, well, what are they going to show you after? It's only going to be closed or open. So if they're lying to you and showing open, what is it going to be post snap? It's going to be closed.
Well, and that is the beauty and simplicity of the dumb veer and shoot type offenses that just have predetermined box counts.
Yep.
And is the middle open or is the middle closed? And that tells your receiver, hey, you're only allowed to run 3 routes ever.
Right.
and you need to run it based on these basic keys. Now, you can lose things just running that, but I almost wonder if we're losing some of the simplicity of the passing game that allows you to just grab yards easily because you're doing all this other intricate stuff that doesn't translate. I think that's really well said, Connor. This has been a great segment in that regard.
Yeah. And Clark Lee tapped into CFB 25 running the same blitz over and over.
Yeah.
And we only run 6 points against it. Well, yeah, if Texas can't stop it, right? And there's a gambling aspect. And you saw we beat it, right, on like that Moore ball with the corner. Like we beat it a couple times, but it starts to pay off for him later on in the game. So it starts off as gambling, but turns into a profitable enterprise the deeper you go.
And Connor, again, when people hear blitz, they think, well, you can't run into a blitz. They're outnumbering us. They're not outnumbering us.
It's simulated most of the time too.
It's either simulated, but also the blitz is the unexpected man. Now, in this case, it was an expected man.
Right.
But it's the idea. So the definition of a blitz, and Ian and I had actually a discussion about this that I think a lot of people were like, oh, that's interesting. It's bringing extra men. That's one definition of a blitz. That's the classic blitz. it's also bringing an unexpected man. So there are 4-man blitzes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you blitz both corners, drop both defensive ends, and then bring your 2 defensive tackles, that is a blitz.
Yep.
But it's not an 8-man blitz. And by the way, you could do that from a 6-man box. You're not outnumbered. And in fact, God, I would pray that I've got a run call on that when they try to do that. But too often, we're not able to just say, all right, they're doing all these simulated pressures. They're doing all these strange blitzes, or they're bringing the edge or the wide edge in the case of a big nickel. Let's just round the ball. Like, let's make them pay for their lack of gap integrity. And we're not able to do that. And you did see some plays in the Vandy game where our backs were not touched the first 5 or 8 yards, and it ends up being a 12-yard run. Some of those need to go for 60, because that's how you get a defensive coordinator to find religion real fast.
Yeah, because Clark Lee, like, he didn't get punished, and he didn't back away. Like, they said the corner blitz and got beat. Clark Lee was like, the game plan here is to fire Quinn up. Like, and they stayed dedicated. Once again, sorry, I went back to offense. Quickly on defense. Defensive rushing, opponent yards per rush, 12th in the country. What's funny is you'll hear like, well, our rushing defense is not as good as last year. You're right, it's not, but it's still 12th in the country. We were like top 3. So it's like, don't think when we say our defensive rushing is not as good that we're in the 40s. No, we're 12th in the country.
Well, and if you want to be elite, if you ask me, do you want to be elite at pass D or run D and then good at the other? I'll take elite pass D every single time.
I agree.
Not 1987.
Yep. Success rate top 20. So they're able to, get positive on us, but not a ton, right? And then you'll see what's important, right? Situationally, rushing power success rate, 3rd and short, 4th and short, 2nd and short. We're able to stop them, top 7 in the country. So when it's time to blow up and we know it's run, we're able to stop guys, and that's what matters.
Situational run defense is everything.
Yeah. Do I have blitz rate percentage by first and second half? No. I didn't track. I tracked it visually, like here's a blitz, but no, I didn't quantify it. But it's just a lot, and they increase in the second half.
Yeah, and Quinn really trailed off in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first half, he hit 17 in a row at one point, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Big difference.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, Alfred Collins,
right
now, he's a top 10 ranked defensive tackle on PFF.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
I've been pointing out how he's been playing, particularly the last 3 games along with Lole. Broughton has actually taken a dive the last few games, but Collins has been awesome. And Lole has been really good. So,
Yeah, Lole's been the coolest to see one of the transfers start to actually, show up.
Well, it is its 19th year of football also.
Yeah, but remember earlier in the season, all those guys were Jags.
That's true.
And the fans were like, what are we doing with these guys? So it's nice to see them making plays. Defensive passing, opponent yards per pass, number 1 in the nation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Opponent success rate 5th, so they're not able to consistently pass either. 6th in explosivity, so they're not able to hit deep shots. Now, Florida, man, have you watched Lagway yet? That boy throws it like 40 yards. He does not care, dude. It's going to be bombs away. He had like one game that was 4 plays over 40 yards.
Yeah, that's also why they limit his number of throws. They're trying to catch you and throw it deep. But if we can get, first of all, the way we can help this defense even more, if our strength is pass defense, Connor, what do you want to do more than anything if your defense's strength is pass defense? What do you want to do with your offense?
Yeah.
Get a lead.
Yep.
Because now they have to throw on predictable downs and distance, and we've shown that we will turn people over when they do that in our secondary, and we're not able to do that. If we can get a lead on Florida early and often and force Lagway into a true freshman quarterback into predictable passing scenarios, we will blow them out. If we don't do that, it's going to be a tight, very competitive nip and tuck game.
Yeah. Sack rate 39th in the country. Good there. DFEI top in the country right now. So best defense in the nation. Pretty cool. 3rd down, 6th in the country. 3rd and 4th success overall 10th. Early downs EPA, stopping teams from being effective early, getting them into passing downs 5th. Number 1 red zone D in the country. So this is also Sark's presser that bothered me when he said something about on defense we need to work on like our red zone defense. I was like, you need to work on red zone offense, Sark. we're doing just fine on red zone defense.
Hey, I've got a. Oh, I'm sorry. I know we're doing D, but he did ask about blitzes in the Vanderbilt game. When blitzed, Quinn was 15 of 19 for 163. That's good, right? 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
So he sort of lived by the sword, died by the sword in that regard. When actually not blitzed, 12 of 18 for 125. So kind of check down central. The main stat that I want to focus on, Connor, is under pressure. So they can blitz, but not get pressure, right? They could rush only 3 and still get pressure. So under pressure means there was pressure, not what they did defensively, right? Yeah. Schematically. Under pressure, Quinn Ewers was 5 of 12 for 47 yards and 1 interception. No bueno.
And this is what the defensive coordinators have realized. If you make Quinn uncomfortable, it's not going to go. It's not going well for him, you know? And so they're just, I mean, Georgia showed us the game plan. And here's the thing. This is what's disturbing, right? Because me and Paul said it too. Vandy's not going to, but Vandy doesn't have a Georgia front. You know, they're not going to be able on D-line. Well, guess what? Vandy 4 sacks. So this is not about pure talent. This is something schematic that's been realized here.
It's schematic. And again, when I reviewed the film, just like with Georgia, I gave half of the sacks, attributed half of them to the O-line.
Yep.
And the rest was sort of on the quarterback or the receiver or the scheme or, you know, it's people have this sort of simplistic, like, well, line has to pass protect better. They suck. They're overrated. It's deeper stuff going on.
Yeah, that's what's hard talking with the fans. I hear a lot of like, so what can we do in bye week? And it's like, you can pray and run some more drills, but there's not, I wish I could say the problem here is left guard or whatever. And I'm not even I'm just naming a position. That's not what's occurring. There's something systemic here. And that's why defensive coordinators have realized this. And you see how many times they're sending the nickel blitz. They're making themselves unsound. They have fire zones. They have vacated zones because they're running cover 3 with 3 underneath defenders. So there's an open flat here.
Well,
and we still can't hit it.
If you want to cut that stuff out, you have to exploit it through the passing or running game the way you do things now. Or you got to spread it out. You got to play a spread offense. You've got to get those receivers out in the green. And so when they do bring that blitzer, it should be dead obvious. As with that Wingo clip that we showed, where Wingo should have just turned around instead of run up the field to the coverage. You know, as a receiver, one of the basic, so this is where, so people are like, what's the play there? Or what's his route? That doesn't matter. If you're teaching the principles of football, it's automatic. And that's why it's so important to teach principles and not plays.
No.
Todd Orlando ended up becoming a bad defensive coordinator because he stopped teaching the principles of football. As a wide receiver, if you see your guy blitz and you're out in space and your coverage guy is a safety squad at 11 yards away, take a step and a half forward, turn your body, and present your hands to your quarterback. Because you're about to catch the ball for at least 9 yards, or if you break a tackle, a touchdown.
I'll give
That's
you
a principle of football. It's not about the play call.
Let's talk about a principle of football. This is a good point you made, Paul. And this play sticks out to me on just like we don't really know what we're doing. Okay, watch here. Okay, top of your screen, this is Silas Bolden. There's a corner squatting here. Now they play a lot of cover 3, right? So we're kind of expecting the corner up top and the corner up bottom to bail.
Drop out.
And then they're going to have the one high safety. And also, guys, y'all keep talking about these 2 high safeties. This ain't a 2 high safety. So here we go. So you see him drop. Now this is Quinn has 2 wide receivers to the bottom of the screen. He actually has one hidden where the ticker tape is. So he has trips right. Okay. And he's looking at the top for Bolden, which is fine. When you do trips, you generally try to isolate that backside receiver. Watch this level of play knowledge. Quinn doesn't look anywhere else. He decides pre-snap. He's going with the man-on-man. Nothing wrong with that. Watch this route.
That's terrible.
He literally sits down with the corner. Quinn throws it. But it's like, what are we doing, guys? Like, this is what we're talking about. Silas Bolden, Quinn goes man-on-man. It's a decision he made, whatever. He just goes and sits with the corner. He's just covered. Now it's 2nd and 10.
So one of and look, obviously there's solves for that because you prepare for it. But one of the beauties of Mike Leach and like the pure undistilled air raid is you would get your ass chewed out across the board. Every receiver there, they would say, run to green. Run to green. So look at the receiver in the slot. Stop. And then I'm talking to the receiver. You're in green. Turn around. The bottom of the screen. Turn around. Why are you still drifting?
Yep.
Why aren't you running away from the two defenders? Why don't you get on the other side of that hash down at the bottom, right? Turn around right now or carry it up the field. Run to green. So Silas Bolden is effectively double covered here at the top of the trips, right?
Yeah.
Because the corner's squatting because look at the single high. He's already cheating up at the top of the screen. I think they knew what this call was.
Well, look, we run all curls. I can't see the bottom receiver, but look at him. He's going to sit down, and so is Moore. So this is basically a cover 3 beater.
Yep.
That you're trying to run.
Moore's open.
Yeah, but Quinn just predetermines that he's going there, which I'm okay with.
And watch that single high safety. He predetermined. He knows where we're going with the ball. Look, he's drifting over as Quinn's dropping back.
Yeah.
So this guy knows he's got a guy behind his back who's already got him like covered up. I'm going to squat. I'm not respecting this guy driving off the ball.
Yep.
So I don't blame Silas Bolden's route. He could run any route he wanted. He's double covered here, right? But why is this the predetermined throw in the offense or Quinn's head?
Well, this is my thing too, right? Like I wouldn't be mad. Like I'm not mad that he predetermines this. Maybe also there's some personnel realities here too. If this is a bigger body that can jump in Moss, maybe I'm okay because you can jump, right? But Bolden can't. But if you're doing all stops, because I wasn't paying attention to the bottom part of the concept, all curls are all stops. Why would you not go where you have 3 different chances to win?
Yeah,
look at trips.
This is frustrating too because it's a 3-man rush. We block it up perfect. Quinn has all day here to survey the field. So some of this is timing. Like he's not throwing the ball when it should be thrown right away, and he's throwing the ball right away when this is a great opportunity.
When you have time.
This guy obviously is squatting. He's got a safety cover over the top. He's out. Take a look to your right. You got great blocking, so keep it running and just watch the protection. You got a big old perfect pocket, and a black jersey ain't coming near you.
You got a triple team on this guy. Dude, how many times can you get a triple team in pass protection?
There's a triangle, or isosceles triangle.
That player's literally being jumped right in front of you guys. But also like 1st and 10. There's just no confidence here. Like we're going to run all curls, right? We're trying to just get 5 yards, and it's like you see, they're like, there's everyone so deep. Where's everyone so deep? Everyone's in the middle of the field. So it's like this concept too of like, they're just keeping safety. We simply can't pass deep is a lie. I can see it on tape. That's not true. And that's what's been frustrating too. This like, well, if we could just, and if they are getting back, like you said, then throw it once you beat this second level, be throwing it here. That's where Quinn was really good at. But it's, I'm just hearing a lot of like nonsense about why we can't have a functioning passing offense when I've seen us have the same offense for years.
Well, yeah. What's funny too is when you have the single high from trips on the other side, double covered, and then you have a 3-man rush. Man, you got to hope that your receivers or the play call is a stop and go because you can go deep here. That single high bailed out. It's 0 coverage, man. That's 0 coverage, right? Yeah. So either, Moore could squat down there and catch a 10-yard pass, or he could squat for a second and take off up the field. There's no safety. That guy right there who's right above him.
Yeah.
If Quinn pump fakes it, he's biting, and Moore, that's a 85-yard touchdown.
sluggo, and then
Yeah.
get out of there.
And you got all day to throw. So it's very frustrating that the concepts aren't matching up to what's happening on the field.
Yeah, it's it's like when one thing you're like, here's the issue, this thing gets fixed, something else gets broken on the play. And like that's when you're talking about like whenever he has time, he doesn't take it, and when he doesn't have time, he tries to take time. It's always like the inverse of what we should be doing situationally is kind of broken.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of that's on Quinn or the concept or the play call against the defense.
It can't be entirely on Quinn, like some of this is on coordinators. And so it's like, and some of this is on coaching, right? Like this is a third-year player that's like making these kind of like first-year-y problems. That's not entirely on your quarterback, man. There's a guy that's supposed to develop these guys. So it's not all blame Quinn fest. It's actually a blame everyone fest.
There you go. With that uplifting message, the bye week couldn't happen too fast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Connor, you want to take us out?
Yeah, let's do it, man. The good thing we can give you guys is the defense is really, really good. So y'all pay attention to this. Defense is going to be the saving grace. Hopefully offense can kind of figure it out, y'all. But we'll see. We got a bye week, and then we got the Florida Gators. They're going to be a fun team. Fans, thank you guys for hanging out. Paul, thanks for your insight. I had a lot of fun, and I liked breaking down the film. We'll do more of that, y'all. But until then, peace.